Welcome to a special edition of Andy Ari On3 presented by Wendy's. We just watched the SEC championship game. Holy crap.
That was really entertaining, Andy.
Highly entertaining, sloppy, crazy. I mean, a one-armed quarterback who was knocked out of the game before halftime returned for the final play after the backup quarterback who had essentially kept his team in a position to win the game got hit so hard in the head that his helmet flew off.
I'm a little disappointed that Jaden Rashada wasn't the final quarterback to take a snap.
We were waiting on him to pop in, and it's like,
SEC,
Carson Beck.
The SEC title-winning play. Yeah, that was a really good game. And I think that what's interesting about it is that we were pretty close to some pretty intense controversy there. Like if Georgia, without Carson Beck, came out and laid an egg offensively for this entire second half and ended up losing, there would be a talking point tonight about what that means if you use Florida State's situation as something that could happen again. That's no longer relevant. Georgia's the SEC champion, and frankly speaking, I know they didn't play well at times this year, but it seemed to me that they were probably the most consistent team in the conference all year. And they'll get the first round bye and probably the number 2 seed at this point. Maybe, I guess if Penn State wins, they might be number 1.
Can we address
I don't
what
know.
every Florida State fan is tweeting at us right now?
They're still doing it?
Oh, all of them. Every single one. Georgia lost its starting quarterback, still won the conference championship game. Does this mean they're out of the playoff? Well, no.
Well, it's different now because there's a 12-team playoff and it's an automatic bid, right? So I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, Florida State still would have made it last year in a 12-team playoff. But we get it. We get the joke. We got it. Understood.
Yeah. Well, also, too, there's
still be mad.
There's one fundamental difference. And I think it's because Gunnar Stockton was more competent
because
by a
Georgia's
long
offense
shot.
Actually got better
in 12
when Gunnar Stockton came in
12 minutes of action there than either of the Florida State quarterbacks that they attempted to play last year did. I understand why they're upset though. Like I don't want to pile on them because they got screwed last year.
Right.
So I'm not trying to be antagonistic, but it's a different system, and the results of the quarterback injury were a mildly or marginally better offense that they had in the entire first half. Did they have less than 100 yards in the entire first half of the game?
It was close.
And it's like, the thing that I think is interesting is that Texas found a way to lose this game, despite the fact that I don't think that Gunnar Stockton threw a single pass down the line of scrimmage, except for the pick that he threw.
No, he had one nice one in that first drive.
He did.
But the
pick was the Oscar Delp one.
Yeah. Or Lost and Lucky.
Was that Lucky?
Yeah, where he tapped his foot. But the pick was horrendous, by the way. Horrendous.
I was in the bathroom during that. I'll have to go back and watch it. But the interesting thing now, I think, is both of these teams are going to be, or we're going to be in the playoff. They're still going to be in the playoff, Andy. But as it pertains to seeding, is there a chance that Georgia's the number 1 seed if Penn State were to win, or does Penn State control its own destiny?
No, I think Penn State beating Oregon would probably launch it to number 1.
Yeah.
And Georgia's got 2 losses, so and one of those losses is pretty definitive at Ole Miss. So
the more interesting thing though is what happens to Texas at this point.
That is definitely the more interesting question. And so, Texas was number 2 in the college football playoff rankings. Georgia was number 5. So we're not going to talk. I don't really care where they're ranked at this point. Georgia's going to be seeded, the 2 seed. Well, they're probably going to be ranked number 2, and they're going to be the 2 seed because they're not going to be behind Boise State, and they're not.
Yeah, they will be the 2 seed, and I think that depending on what happens with the Oregon, if Penn State were to somehow win that game, I think there might be a discussion about number 1.
Right.
So, I think it still probably would be Penn State, but I don't think that's certain.
But the Big Ten champ and the SEC champ will be the 1 and the 2 seed.
Yeah, well, the way that Mother Nature intended. And then we're going to go.
So where does Texas go?
So Texas is in a head-to-head debate with Notre Dame probably for 5. And I think that you said before
same
the
best
show,
win.
They've got the same best win. Notre Dame has a fewer loss. I think that Notre Dame is going to be ranked ahead of Texas. I don't know about I don't know that I feel. We don't know how the committee is going to treat conference champion losses, but the problem is that, and I need to go look this up because I don't have my computer in front of me in the studio. But does Notre Dame have a win over a ranked team? I guess now that Army lost.
Well, I got the Sagarin ratings up. So
but in terms of the college football playoffs rankings, though, neither team has a ranked win.
Let's look at that.
Because Army lost. So I guess they, depending on what they, Army won by 1,000,000 and Army was ranked. So
Right, so
actually
that's
Notre
one.
Dame has a better
Yeah.
resume, fewer losses and a better resume just from that standpoint. So I think that Notre Dame probably has a pretty safe route to 5. And then I think I would probably slot Texas around 6. Although, it is kind of interesting because if this were the 4-team field, like they would be out.
Right.
Like this isn't a 4-team resume. So, that there's a lot of teams here that, would be in a really uncomfortable situation. But the thing that would be interesting, Andy, is Penn State and Texas are very similar in what they did. And if Penn State loses a close game to Oregon, what do you do with Penn State and Texas?
Well, let me bring another team into the Texas discussion. Ohio State.
Yeah.
So Texas, now I think Texas wins this one because their only 2 losses are to Georgia, which is a playoff team.
Yep.
Ohio State, now they lost to Oregon, but they also lost to Michigan. But Ohio State has the wins against Penn State and Indiana, which are going to be very helpful to them because Ohio State has better wins than Texas.
So if Oregon beats Penn State, do you think that there is a path for Ohio State to be 5? Or do you think that Notre Dame would block them no matter what?
I think there's a path. Do you think the committee members will definitively think that Notre Dame is better than Ohio State?
No, and Ohio State has more wins than Notre Dame, and we talked about this all week.
They like wins.
They
better.
like wins, and they'll forgive a loss.
And remember,
so I don't know.
Notre Dame's
know.
one loss sucks. It should count as 2.
Yeah. So the question, I guess, is we're just basically doing tonight's show right now. But if Penn State loses, then do you have to slot them behind Ohio State?
I think you do. They played on and Ohio State beat them on the road.
Yeah, but Penn State's second loss would be in an extra game.
Right.
So I don't know.
But if Penn State had to go to Oregon, they probably would have lost that too. And Ohio State did.
I mean, if Ohio State ends up being number 5, they get rewarded for losing to Michigan. That would just feel so disgusting.
It would feel disgusting.
Yeah. No, this is interesting. I think we're going to have to see how Penn State does this week. But like Penn State also is only a 3-point dog tonight, Andy. They could win.
They could win this game.
Yeah.
This is going to be spectacular, though, in the playoffs. Because think about the drama of that overtime. Now, imagine instead of that overtime with both of the teams getting into the playoff and us wondering where they're going to be seated, it's one of them's going to lose and be out and season's over, and one is going to advance.
All right. Here, you want to spice this video up? Let me spice it up.
Let's do it.
I ended the last video with a take that didn't land real well. So I'm going to try to be less divisive this time.
All right.
Neither of those teams are winning at all this year.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we saw a lot of flaws in those teams.
That's who they were, I think. That wasn't just 2 tough teams in the SEC. Yeah. They might be framed that way by some people.
Yeah.
But I think who they are was highlighted.
They have good defenses.
They've got good defenses.
But they do not have great offenses, neither one. Now, we don't know what's going on with Carson Beck. If you watched the play he got injured on, my guess, and I am not a doctor, but the way his arm got trapped as he's trying to throw, and then he kept trying to move it, I was like, that's his elbow.
Well, I mean, the way that he was dangling it to his side on his way into the final play.
But it could have been a shoulder. It looked like his elbow. That's what he had wrapped in ice.
Yeah, that's iced.
Now, if I were Georgia and someone from the College Football Playoff Committee called and asked me how Carson Beck was doing, I would lie my ass off and say he's great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
They're going to be number 2 seed anyway. But
I don't know that there's anything to gain.
Just in case.
But
just in case, lie your ass off.
Yeah, and yeah, this is a completely different scenario, and now there's 2 weeks to wait. So, I mean, unless it's a serious injury.
Well, and they also had the bye.
Doesn't it? Yeah, so it's a 3-week wait now, right?
Yeah.
They don't play till New Year's Eve now.
Either
right?
New Year's Eve or
the first.
New Year's Day. Yes.
So,
they play New Year's Day. They play the Sugar Bowl. So they played 8 p.m. Eastern time.
So here's the
New Year's
prediction
Day.
from somebody who did go to medical school. That'd be me.
Oh yeah.
He'll either play in the first game that they play in the playoff or won't play at all in it.
Yeah, I would think so.
Isn't that a fair assumption?
Yeah, because there's enough time if it's not that serious, and then if it is super serious, then he's out.
I also don't think, and this might be another hot take for a On3 video here, but I don't know that Georgia was that much different of a team without him. So
right, that is interesting because remember, Gunnar Stockton hasn't been taking snaps with the ones. What we saw was him operating probably from a pretty limited perspective.
Yeah, I give him a month.
If Carson Beck is indeed seriously hurt, Gunnar Stockton's working with the ones.
That's how Georgia's going to have to beat people, right? Yeah. Great defense and pounding people. Like, that's what they do.
Can we talk about the other team, though?
Texas?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because we had a comment in the chat. I posted it earlier. Somebody asked, why was Quinn still playing?
We were talking about that the entire
We were
game,
talking about it as we watched the game. You asked this when we talked about the Arch Manning package, and we saw the Arch Manning package twice. One where they snapped it through his legs on fourth down.
It looked like he had snapped through something else.
Yeah, and another time when he came in and ran the read option at the beginning of overtime.
Yards,
yeah. Is he not? Is there a chance he's the better option just in general?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It would have been nice to see it. Like, I don't know if this is a take or not, but like if he played all 4 quarters, don't you think they would have had a chance to win? They had a chance to win already, but like, do you think they would have won?
I don't know. I just don't know because we haven't seen him other than the brief period in the Texas or in the Georgia game where he looked terrible. But Quinn had also looked terrible.
A lot of aspects of that game looked just like the game in Austin.
Exactly.
They were up Quinn's ass the second he took the snap, and he had no answer, and he turtled up, and like he can't move. So, and I'm not saying that he's not a good. That throw that he made on the 4th down on the final drive of regulation to tie it was an insane throw.
Yeah.
Like I understand that he's been there. It's hard to make.
What if they draw Tennessee and James Pierce is coming?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can't escape pressure, and you think Arch can, which is the message that Sark has already admitted to by replacing him in the first game, then you have to try something.
For pressure. That's not why. Oh, you're talking about in the first Georgia game.
I'm talking about like not being unable to evade.
Yeah, I was thinking you meant the Arch package, which is because Quinn Ewers' ankle is injured.
No, I think that if you can't make plays with your feet and the other person on the team can, and also gain yardage on design runs while also being a pretty good thrower, you kind of have to see what's going on there, right? And I don't know what the right time would have been in the SEC championship game, but like backup quarterbacks have come into games that are higher leverage moments than that in the past.
Cardale Jones.
Cardale Jones. Listen, the other team had a backup quarterback, not by choice, but they did. They won.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Joshua asks, is 7 the most desirable seed because you get to play Georgia's backup QB in the Sugar Bowl? Well, no. Well, you have to beat 11 first. 11 could be really good.
Yeah.
Or not. Well, depending on the day, could be really good. It could be somebody highly flawed, but also potentially really good.
If number 3 is Boise, then who would be 4?
Yeah.
And number 4 could be SMU
or Arizona State.
And SMU or Arizona State might not.
Well, no. If Boise's number 3, it's because SMU lost to Clemson. SMU is going to be number 3 if they beat Clemson.
Right.
So if Boise's number 3, I would think Arizona State is number 4.
Oh, over Clemson.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, highly entertaining game. It would have been cool to see Texas win the SEC in their first attempt at it, Andy, after hearing that they weren't ready for the SEC for a few years coming into it. But I think the better team probably won. Both teams have very fractured offenses. And here's the thing, and here's the question for you. We've come to expect in the college football playoff, at least during the 4-team field, that you need a certain caliber of offense to win. Like even good teams in the playoff, at least the 4-team field, needed to score
nobody's been able to slog through, and
giving up 28 points was a good performance for a defense.
Right.
In this new flattened era of college football, can you win a playoff game 13-10? Like can Georgia win a national title?
We just watched a playoff game.
Yeah.
That they won 22-19 in overtime.
Yeah.
That ended 16-16 in regulation.
Do you think they could 22-19 their way to a national title?
No.
Okay.
Because I think you can win 1 game like that. I don't think you can win 3 games like that
in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're in agreement there. We'll see what happens with Carson Beck. I'm very curious to see this new Penn State with the weird action going in on it. All the people, the Oregon line
is strange.
I thought that Oregon would be favored by 5 or 6.
It was a strange opening line, and then it moved the direction we didn't think it was going to go.
Direction. Yeah. So, I can't wait to see if the new James Franklin is here. And tonight we'll have a ton of context for you guys as we get the final 2 results, and it's going to be a great show tonight.
We will talk to you at 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. We'll break it all down, and we will have, I hope, pretty good idea of what the bracket's going to look like.
Yeah, we're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and then it will be easier to dissect because it won't be, well, what if this happens?
Right.
We'll have the results.
We will know.
We'll be able to debate the things that are needed to be debated. But I feel pretty good about where we're at with who's going to get in, where they are, and all those things. And unless Clemson wins, then it's meltdown mode in here, which is
meltdown mode's always fun too.
Good for business. Yeah, we'll see. we'll see what happens. But it was been a fun day so far. The On3 studio is beautiful. Love being in Nashville with you, Andy. And yeah, let's go watch the rest of these games.
Let's do it.